Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Deep Balls with Brandon Rogers. That's me, and I'm here with Jonathan Hinman. And it's going to be a very grim episode where we're talking about the afterlife here, and sort of what comes next after this one. Mm-hmm. You know, I've heard a lot of renditions. I've believed a lot of things throughout my lifetime about what comes next, and I'm always fascinated with every different version of the truth, so to speak, of who we are in the greater scheme of things. Jonathan, just to get this out of the way, right?
Let's do it. Rip it off.
What do you think happens? We die, and then what do we become? Nothing.
I think nothing happens.
It's like being a stoner when you go to sleep. You can't remember your dreams. You're essentially in a black void of nothing. Your consciousness is asleep.
It's just gone. There's no life. There's no nothing. It's just over.
Now, I thought that when I was a kid, I used to think, what a horrific thing. How could any asshole believe that? But then someone at school presented a very compelling argument. They said, well, think about it like this. If you look at time, not as a sequential element, but just as just a flat map itself, you were dead for millions of years before you were ever alive.
Yep.
Can you remember what that was like? And I thought to myself, I wasn't around. Again, you won't be around after you die either. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, what the fuck? You blew my mind. That's what it's going to be like. And I thought when I was like, that's what it would be like. And then for the first time, I had a glimpse of that possibly being a reality. So that's what you believe. You believe that when they kick it, they are just...
They're poofed out of existence, out of meaning.
Noise.
It's gone. And I think other things about life, I think that... I think that we're all part of a life force. I think that life is change, and if you look at millennia of existence, it's the things that are alive that are moving around. I mean, other non-sentient things are reacting, like the sun is changing, but things are changing due to physical rules and this might even say miracle of life. Like, wow, what the heck are all these creatures doing, and what's their purpose? And they're just here to exist. Right. And there's an incredible beauty to that, but you're a part of that overall force. And I think there's no reason to think that you are yourself after. No, you're dead.
No, you're dead. Yeah, that's the thing. And I imagine the afterlife, if there is such a thing as the afterlife, must be a pretty big place, because it must be pretty full of living. Well, and what makes it into the afterlife, technically? Like do humans, only humans, every depiction of heaven, I think there's humans and then dogs and cats, the lovable creatures. You don't see many snakes in heaven, right?
Right.
But
spiders.
Spiders. What about them?
Hell.
I mean, every living object on this planet only acts according to its own nature. And so can you fault a spider for killing a fly any more than a mother for feeding her child through the tit?
It's a great point.
So what, and who is to judge whether or not you go into a sexy point? Yes, a little nipple point. But who is to judge who does or doesn't get into this heaven, or even if there is that? What if an afterlife is just a generic holding area? Well, we'll move on to those theories before, but I want to talk a little bit more about the bleak
Present some
one.
evidence for that.
I want to talk a little bit more about Jonathan's very depressing dystopian view on
let's get into it.
No, that is, I think that's the obvious one. I mean, that's the one that I think is most entertained, besides the whole heaven hell theory. I think a lot of people are wondering, if that is the reality.
Sorry. I was going to say, it's like such an uncomfortable belief. And what it makes me think about is, why would I believe something? Why would I believe something else? Or why would I believe anything? And it's all things that you're told.
Right.
And why does one choose to believe one thing or another? And why do people try to push a certain belief or another? Right. And what does your belief actually make you do with your life?
That's true. Well, what do our beliefs? I'm not a very religious person at all. In fact, I'm quite agnostic, but I think that religion is a beautiful thing, depending on whose hands it's in. It's like a radioactive spider to Spider-Man. It's like you becoming religious is a superpower, right? Okay, you're going to either adopt this as a crazy thing or an enlightening thing, right?
You can use the powers of the mystic truths that religion give you access to for good or for evil.
Exactly. And see, it's a superpower I'm not that interested in having. However, I do think that religion is good. I'm not religious, but I am all for it if it means that you're going to be a kinder person, a more selfless person. A lot of people give back to the community through religion. A lot of people are just more loving to their friends and family. They're the people immediately in their life. They have better values because of their religion. So,
right, that can happen. And for me, like in my personal observations and opinion, are that religion is kind of a moot point in that pursuit. It's like, no, I know some evil people who are very religious, and they're evil. And I know lots of great people who are a little religious, even very religious, and they're just amazing, beautiful people. And it's all about your personal relationship with that truth and with loving yourself and loving your neighbor and all that. But some people, that's just a facade.
Right. So I think that there's 1,000 reasons to have a religion. I think that because I grew up in a very small white town, and most of my friends were either Catholic or Mormon, and or there was you met very few friends with parents who weren't religious. Almost everyone when growing up had and I always admired.
It was the 90s.
It was the 90s. We all had we were all magical, but I always admired the community, the tight, almost sense of family that every congregation seemed to have. My congregation, my friends' congregations, like everyone. And once you became friends with those people, you kind of got welcomed into their greater church family. Yeah. And I thought that support was nothing bad ever came from that. Obviously, it forced me to stay in the closet for a very long time. But other than that, I enjoyed it. It was people were very nice, very loving. I have only the warmest memories about my religious friends. However, I remember the version of the afterlife always seemed to kind of alter between different people's beliefs. And that scared me. That did scare me because, say what you want.
Yeah, the first time you hear a different take on what the afterlife is, you're like, wait a minute.
Luckily, my dad had me. We watched a lot of sci-fi and fantasy growing up, so the idea of death and an afterlife of any kind was not foreign to me. I watched a lot of stuff where, and I actually was thinking the other day, when did I discover what death was? I think it's when my grandfather passed away. I was like 3 years old. He passed away, and I remember my mom having to explain it to me. But
she's like, "Oh, he's dead already."
He's dead. Wow. That storyline didn't flesh out very long. No, I was already thinking of like a writer back then. No, but I don't know. I remember the first time I heard that something was different, like something could be different than what I believe in. That scared me because say what you want about God or Santa Claus or where we came from, death is the only one of your beliefs that affect my reality going forward. That was, it's like that meant that, well, hold on now. Cause I remember even when I was like 8 years old, I would go to catechism at St. Michael's Catholic School in Livermore. And I remember sitting there and thinking, catechism, right? It sounds like it's a very imprisoning term, but slightly retarded. Catechism. Like it's a little bit empowering, but kind of stupid. Anyways, I remember, even that, because I was in catechism from like I think I was like from 7 to about 10 or 11 years old. I was there, and
feels right.
It did not feel right. No, but I remember thinking like, well, wait a minute, because I went to public school, which was probably my parents' first mistake. No, but I remember the kids in public school would talk about their religions, and especially 11 years old, you're getting into in social studies, we were starting to learn about. It was world history, which religion plays a massive role in. Yeah. So you're learning about other religions on the globe and just in the planet, and how these beliefs created, some of the greatest monuments that we've ever built, pyramids and, walls and statues, and you learn the religious significance behind them. So I remember thinking as a kid,
the truth of the human condition is like Jesus Christ centric. What did they do for 30,000 years?
Exactly. And so when you hear about these other religions and then you kind of explore like, oh, well, they also believe that you go somewhere different. Overall, it's a general sense of heaven, hell, but a lot of religions don't necessarily even have it broken down like that. Some religions believe in reincarnation. Some religions believe in, nothing at all. And so so I learned just about the hundreds and hundreds of different religions on this planet, and I remember thinking, not only before then did I consider that there's different religions, but let alone a vast amount. And I thought as a kid, there's no way in hell, like the odds that my religion is the one, my view of the afterlife is the golden ticket, the for sure set in stone thing that's going to happen after I croak. I'd have to be an idiot. And I remember thinking,
definitely this one because it's popular today.
Right. And I think that, so if there's anything, to people listening to this, there's anything to take away from this, if you want to keep your kids good and brainwashed, do not put them in public schools because they teach about the other religions there. But that's really what started me, becoming a homosexual. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, like I remember that shook my fundamental, and that belief wasn't just a belief that, that I'd get into either heaven or hell or limbo or they recently got rid of purgatory, the Catholics. Yeah. So, but at the time when it was a smart move, right? Just simplifies things, just no more gray area.
It's not trending anymore. Like just get rid of it.
Yeah, just throw out the gray. Black and white's where it's at. Nice. I remember I was a little scared because that was the only belief that I would lean into and really use as a safety, because it's a very comforting thing. It's two things about religion that's comforting. A, that there's a higher power that is kind of accountable for your
super
actions.
Comforting to believe in the afterlife.
Right, and the afterlife, and that there is a greater world beyond this one that we get to rest into for eternity.
Yeah, like don't even worry about this life. Right. Don't even worry about it.
Now, I would say
the real money is in the next one.
The real money in sex is in the next life after 3 more.
See, that's the thing too. It's like what on the topic of what do your beliefs in the afterlife make you do? How do they affect your life? And like my mom is very depressed about my belief that there's just nothingness. She's like, oh my God, that's so, isn't that so sad? Doesn't that like make you sad? And it's like, I mean, I've kind of accepted it. And so it's not a thing to like feel sad about one way or the other, but and I can go more into that, but really it's like, if anything, it places a fucking premium on my life.
It places a here and now kind of scenario.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in anything else. Better do this one, right?
Right. My feet will only get one run through the sands of time. I better make sure that they leave an imprint. And I have that same mentality. If I have not made this abundantly clear yet, I am not in agreement with Jonathan's version of what could happen after, but I'm not in disagreement either. I'm very, very agnostic, meaning I'm open to what could or couldn't be. I don't think that I possess any kind of superpower that allows me, or anyone, no one on the planet necessarily has a superpower that allows them a greater look than me or anyone else into the afterlife. We really don't know. But I've heard very compelling arguments from both sides, and I think I'm agnostic mostly because I'm too lazy to pick one or do the research to push me on one side of the fence.
And maybe it helps keep you open-minded in a way. Like maybe my rigid adherence to logic and evidence kind of closes some things off, but I like to try to combat that with kind of an openness to the reasons for people's mythology. Like when I think about what what someone's claim about the afterlife or their belief kind of means in terms of their projection of their reality, I try to figure out why do you feel that way? And in total, like Norse mythology plus Egyptian mythology plus Christian mythologies and everything all together is kind of the truth of how humans feel about their own life.
Interesting.
And I try to keep an open mind about that, even though I'm relatively closed about the afterlife, being like, no, I don't believe anyone's promises or thoughts on
right. And that is what I love about that theory of the afterlife, your version of the I like that it does force us to act here and now. Like we only got one shot. There is no heaven or hell or afterlife for me to make up, with my grandmother. There's no, I'll make up with her after I see her on the other side. It's like, no, like, because she will be air by then. And so I get that as well. It does scare me though. Like it does make me feel sad. If that is true, then it makes every death around me so much more sad, but then it's like they're not around to be sad about. I mean, I think personally, and I've given a lot of thought to my own death. I've given a lot of thought about it. If I were to die and, right here and now, and I wake up a moment from now or, 10 years from now, I'd be like, oh, that's normal. I wake up in another life. I wake up in a heaven or hell. I wake up in a gray room. I wake up as a transient being a trans alien on another planet struggling with coming out. I don't know what I'll wake up as, but whatever the fuck I become after I die, I'll be like, oh, okay, all right, that's what it is. I'll never be like, oh my God, this couldn't be. This couldn't. I'm an elephant. This couldn't be. Like, no, I accept what is on the other side with open arms, and that does scare me though. But the thing, and I've given a lot of thought about what it would be like to die and just be nothing, just have my consciousness gone, and then to think of the opposite, to die and be fully aware of everything. Now that might be a true pain, because we all like to think that we're going to go somewhere when we die, but really, like, wherever that place is, you're going to be able to reflect on the choices you've made in your life. And sure, you'll be happy about some of them, but we've already admired the choices we love. We'll think about the things we'll never have accomplished. We'll think and dwell about the relationships that we fucked over and whether or not we'll ever see that person again to make up for the pain we caused them while we were alive. I mean, we will have time to just sit and stew in all the regrets, because we don't think about the regrets while we're alive. We do think about the good times.
I know. That's one thing I think, like, is there some form of enlightenment that maybe even just the act of death itself would bring to your state of consciousness, that you would like have a greater perspective on regrets, and you like wouldn't maybe dwell so negatively, but you would like approach it with a more enlightened thought? Or is that just your doom is to have infinity applied to your state of mind in death?
Right, right. And to just forever dwell, whether or not you liked the life you lived, you have this infinite timeline of just reflecting on it. And so, yes, yeah, and I wonder,
scary.
And like, okay, we say that when we die, the general belief is that we are reunited with our loved ones. Now, is this blood family? What if I know a lot of people who do not like their blood family,
and who think that they're going to be reunited with me, and I'm not so into it.
I mean, right. What if they don't want to see me? And what I mean, if the afterlife, if we were really truly to be reunited with everyone we wanted to be reunited with, the afterlife would look a lot more like Facebook. It would look a lot more like a web, and maybe that's what it is. Or maybe we are only. And
maybe it's like, well, if they want to see you, then you'll be in theirs, but they won't be in yours if you don't want to see them. It's like, that's not the afterlife. That's multiple universes.
Right.
That's
And if heaven existed, I mean, would it truly be heaven if it wasn't exactly the way you wanted it? And what if the way that I wanted everything is red and everyone is a man?
Or it has to be perfect. Yeah, exactly. It has to be perfect, and all of our states of mind are changed to the unified, enlightened one that can agree with each other. It's like if maybe people are all red, and it's like, no, everyone realized that red is the way to go. Red people. Brandon was right about that one.
And that's what determines us to get into a heaven or hell? I mean, what might be a good deed to you might be a sin to someone else. I mean, I think there's general rules of like, yes, help those less fortunate than you, and be there for your friends and family. Be a good, good.
And have compassion.
Right. But then there's like, you get religions where it's like, wear this kind of underwear and only eat this during this month and only have that. It's like, whoa, now. And these people take it so fucking seriously. Should I be doing this too? I want to go to a place.
It seems like a good set of rules that I can follow.
Right. It's an easy set of rules, not ones I want to follow. There's never been a religion that I've heard of where I'm like, sounds like a nice lifestyle. Like, I've never heard of one where I'm like, I wish I had that. You really have to have, I mean, they're like diets essentially. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, good for you. You have willpower and, you have determination, but
there's a lot of unpleasant things that are going to help you yield some benefits.
You know what? I want to say I've been a handful of religions throughout my life. I think most of my religious life I was Catholic, not by choice. I was as a baby dunked into water without my consent and became Catholic.
Same.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Well, it's good to know that no matter what we do, we're going to get into heaven anyways.
I've been blessed in the new river of Styx.
Oh, nice. They just had a golden bucket for me. But it was in front of an audience, so I started my life as a star, getting waterboarded in front of a bunch of old people.
My first taste of attention.
My first taste of attention, and I couldn't get enough. So then after that, after my parents split, my mom kind of rediscovered generic, like Christianity, which I know this is about the afterlife, but I have to talk about this new breed of Christianity. There's almost like a corporate-y, like a shopping mall Christianity I've been seeing pop up everywhere.
Yeah, they'll sell you any religion you are willing to buy.
There are some churches that I'm serious that when I was and just before I go into this, I have nothing against these kind of churches. I think they're actually really fun to go to. When I was in Livermore, my mom, so when my parents split, my mom kind of rediscovered Christianity at the place called Cornerstone Church church, and it was the most, because I had gone to Catholic church this whole time, and I go here and it looks like a shopping mall when you walk in. There's like a bookstore and a coffee shop, and there's like a live band, and there's, I don't know, it's probably much different now, but I remember when everyone's white.
Nice.
Right. It's a really nice place. But I remember walking in thinking, like, they've made religion fun. There was a youth center with a rock wall, and I'm coming from singing fucking hymns in a stained glass house of cold. And here I am in this fun place where they've got cool, like, even the singers on stage are hot. Like, I'm loving this place. And I just remember thinking, like, this is, and everyone in this room is aware of the fact that this is just the beginning, that we have so much more to live on after this life. And like, what a joyous mindset to truly be in. I'm not saying I don't believe that, but I certainly am open to other philosophies that might not be as warming and endearing. And so I do envy that when I was 11 years old, being part of that community and really just leaning into I'm going to be with all these people after we die. It's like, and then it's like, well, the counter argument to that is, well, I mean, other people at other periods of time have felt similarly, just because it's not, I mean, people felt that way when they were drinking Kool-Aid. I mean, it's like, whatever your certainty is, if you're happy in that certainty, then great, live in there. Because I feel like since then I've experienced other religions, I experienced other truths, and they're not as happy and fulfilling as the one I was so warmly back at Cornerstone Church believing in.
Yeah, I think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head there, where it's like, it's how does it make you feel, and what does it make you do? And it's like, if the people are singing and sharing joy and living joyously and with compassion and love, like, well, that's what makes it good. Right.
Exactly. It's not
that you followed X rule or Y rule or Z set of rules. It's what just happened.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're gone, how will you be remembered? I mean, oh God, it is, it's scary. I care more about the afterlife mostly for the people around me who pass away than I do for myself. Like, I almost don't even care where I go, as long as I don't want to suffer where I go, and I don't want to be sad wherever I go. But I think that just becoming nothing or just be existing in another realm, or I don't know. It's like, I'm more concerned about, are my friends and family going to be happy after they go? Like, but I really, if I become nothing, so be it. But it is sad to me, if someone I know passes away, thinking, oh, they're gone entirely, inside and out. They're just air now. Not even air. They're nothing. And it's like, I don't know that, and even to this day, that's still a very hard thing for me to grasp.
Yeah.
Or not grasp, but yeah.
And I noticed in myself, there's like a marked difference in what I think the afterlife is for me versus what it is for other people. Like, obviously, there's a connection. I think that when I die, that it's just nothingness, and when someone else dies, like, I guess I think the same thing. But I hesitate to really project that thought onto them. I'm like, well, I don't know what happens when you die. Like, I'm which is kind of weird. But like, I don't want to like
put that on you.
Yeah, I don't want to put that on you. I don't even want to feel that way about it. And I just want like your journey with your own life and what you think of the afterlife to be like purely you. Right. And it's not like it's almost like my projection isn't to meddle there. Right.
But you just have your own, like, odds are I'm going to go here when
But I also do think that, like, no, it's nothingness for all of us. How could it, how could I think that about myself and not actually think it?
It's interesting. I know what you mean. I mean, everyone who thinks that the afterlife is one way or another probably thinks that for the rest of humanity as well. Anyone who thinks you go to heaven or hell probably thinks that the rest of the world goes to heven or hell.
Right. I'm the only one that goes to heaven. Everyone else goes to hell.
Well, what a hell that would be, to be the only one in a cloudy place. Well, that's usually me. But no, I don't know. I think that it's definitely, it's funny. This morning I was telling Jonathan, I forgot this was the topic we were going to talk about today. But ironically, I woke up at 4. I woke up at 4 and just laid there, and I was bored. I was like, I'm not going to go back to sleep. What if I just watch videos of it? And I fell into this K-hole of watching Afterlife videos or astral projection theory videos on YouTube, which is just ironic. I never watched that kind of shit, and here we are talking. So I have to say, there is compelling arguments that I've heard. We kind of talked about it a little bit during the ghosts episode with Gabriel was saying he had the thing with his aunt that he signed. Him and his friend both, or him and his cousin, I believe, they looked at each other and they confirmed that they saw this. I've heard other stories similar to that. My dad had one where he tells me the story. over and over and over. Like ever since I was a kid, he's told me this. But him and his friend, when he was like 21 years old, they were on their way to a concert or something like that. It was pouring rain, and they were in the middle of like the forest. And the car broke down. They pulled over. There's mud everywhere. They get out. They open the hood and they go in, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with the engine. And like I guess this guy came along and he helped them, or he like looked. No, they were both looking into the engine. And he comes up between them, looks into the engine, and I don't think he said anything or whatever. But basically, in a moment, he was gone. And there was no footprints in the mud. And I hear about this from my dad and even his friend, because my dad still keeps in touch with the guy. Like I've heard this from both of them. And when you have two people tag team in a ghost story, it's different than just one person saying, yeah, I saw it. You're like, okay, yeah, you could be fucking crazy too. But when it's two people, it's like
super psychotic.
It's super. then you better get out of there because you're surrounded by two nuts. But no, that's you know, on YouTube I've just watched a bunch of people's explanations of near death or even or not even near death, like death experiences coming back from the other side. And it's usually the same thing from everyone. It's usually that it's like a warm set of colored lights or something, something quite acidic sounding or psychedelic sounding. And then they come back and they can say what, even when all sections of their brain were completely dead, they were able to say what the doctors were talking about or what the nurses were doing. They were seeing this from an astral view above their operating table or whatnot. And, I've heard about these things. Now, my theory is, what if like we just have this ability to see outside or to be conscious after death somehow, but what if that doesn't last forever? Like you don't hear about it. You don't.
Right. That was like the last 5 seconds of your brain power.
Right. Right. Like what?
And a lot can happen. Like I can have my life has flashed before my eyes in moments of near death. That's a lot of time that I just experienced in a flash.
Right. So, exactly. It's like, what if your brain, once it accepts that it's about to pass away, and I've heard of this, and I should have fucking researched, because I sound like an idiot talking about this right now, but I've heard that there's a part of your brain, right, that activates only twice in your life, when you're born and when you die.
I don't know about that.
Heard, now you guys might want to look this up, because I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that
tell us.
That's not a fact that I would just pull out of my ass. Like either someone lied to me or that's a thing. But I'm serious, and I've also heard it from other people, something about a part of your brain that only goes off, I think, once or twice, and it happens when you die. And when it's shutting down. Now, I hope I don't die from something like my head getting crushed, because then I won't be able to experience this wonderful.
Need the brain to work for another couple of seconds.
Psychedelic, exactly.
Beheading was fine.
Beheading is good because it's the brain is still intact, and I don't know. I mean, I wonder how much you feel like if it's like now not a beheading like the kind with the machete or a serrated knife, but I'm talking about the clean ones with the guillotine.
Yeah, guillotine, nice, awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, I want it to go shing and not. Because there's like 10 of those, but anyways, no, I think,
true.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always, and it's funny. I think about that every time I watch a movie and a character dies. I'm like, are they going to heaven or hell? Because every movie has its own mythology of the afterlife. I hope there's an afterlife in this universe. Like in Star Wars, a character dies, you don't feel that bad. Because they're gonna
hang out. They're gonna help other Jedis.
Right, but a character dies in a Marvel movie. I don't think there's ghosts in Marvel. I don't think they exist. Maybe they do. But
they got enough mythologies in there that they go in somewhere.
Well, I mean, Jonathan, really quick, what do you have to say? I mean, if it is true that people can experience. They have a perception of some kind. There is a consciousness after they have been reportedly dead. I mean, what do you say to that? If that, how would
right? Yeah, I think that the brain has lots of synapses that fire in a particular way upon death. And I mean, I'm not a neurosurgeon or neuroscientist or anything. I haven't studied this, but no, I do think that something happens to your brain. And that's very common.
Something unique happens to your brain only when you're dying. You mean?
Yeah, and that there's I can believe that a feeling of warmth and like a singular bright light and a narrowing of the tunnel vision. Like I've experienced tunnel vision a couple times where it's I passed out and my vision it went black and it was the only thing I could see felt far away and very much in the center.
Damn.
And so there are are lots of these kinds of physiological experiences that I just equate to the science of how you die. And I think that it's quite a stretch personally to infer like, nope, that was definitely God over there, and I was definitely walking towards the light, and another couple seconds I would have been chilling in heaven. You know, like okay, you know. And so I think there's that, and I think that like I've experienced plenty of memories of my own where I saw it from the third person perspective. And,
interesting.
And so that kind of makes me feel that out of body experiences are just one of those. It's like, and you know, maybe I'm super skeptical, but also I've had quote unquote out of body experiences then where I just remember it from like the third person perspective behind my shoulder. So, you know, but that's just a mapping of space and memory, you know.
And that's hard to prove or disprove someone else's out of body experience because it's really just their word against nobody's.
You
know, it's like, did you really, or do you just remember it? Like
I can imagine this room
moment,
from above.
I can imagine us talking right now from above, what that would look like. And it's like, okay, what if I dreamt that? I had an out of body experience.
I'm having one right now. There I am looking down on your hand.
Right. It's like, it's one thing if you're holding something behind your back and then I have an out of body experience. Like, oh, he's holding a dildo. Yep, I was right.
Although a dildo would be first guess, and probably get it.
You're like, even lucky guess. But no, and I want to know, like, I wish we were like one of those shows in the 90s where you just call in and just tell us your experience and we just pick up. But I have a feeling that it would just be a lot of cunts with just stories like, oh yes, well this happened to, everyone has a story. And here's the thing, everyone wants to believe, everyone has some shit. For the record, if there isn't a second person, for your tale, I'm probably not going to believe you. I don't believe fantastical things.
We'll smile and nod.
I'll smile and nod. But
you're an idiot.
The only fantastical things I choose to believe anymore are political. But I think that, what was I just saying? God damn it.
Just call in third person perspective, astral projection.
Anyway, astral. Like I wouldn't believe. No, but really, I am curious to know what other people's experiences have been with near death or even death. Dying and coming back, or comas. I mean, do you know anyone who's been in a coma? That's a pretty similar experience.
No, that is really interesting.
Because you're essentially checking out for a long period of time, and I wonder, do people really experience consciousness? I don't know. Like, what if you were in a coma for 10 years and you woke up and you're like, nothing is there. Nothing. It literally felt like I just went to sleep yesterday.
Well, you'd have people being like, no, that's because you were in a coma and not dead.
That's because you were in a coma and not dead. Exactly.
Like, okay.
But you do acknowledge that the soul can be silenced. You do acknowledge that the soul can be non-existent for a moment. And it's like,
right. To your knowledge.
Right. To my knowledge. Right.
But that's the thing. It's
just
like
a counter argument. Oh, what if you just don't remember? Well, what kind of fucking trickery God is that? Do you really want that God if he's that Applejacks about everything?
Right.
Oh, you don't remember now. Fucking Men in Black up here.
If you want something to be proof of your belief, like you'll find a way to interpret it as proof of your belief.
That's true.
And if you don't, if it doesn't agree with it, then you'll find a way to make it just not agree with what you want to believe.
Before I dropped out of college, I took a psychology class. And one of the things I remember the most is that a belief, like the definition of one's belief, like you cannot assuage I think I talked about this on here briefly.
I mentioned it,
But you cannot assuage someone's belief. And if they believe in something, even with some of the most compelling arguments, people will go out of their way to make things fit their belief, whichever that is. It could be some fantastical religious heaven, hell, reincarnation, or some depressing bullshit like yours. It could be I don't know what it is. It could be any multitude of things. I don't know which side of the fence.
It's a dangerous thing, belief, and
it is.
And as a former agnostic and now just regular old atheist and general skeptic, I've had to also come around to the idea that like belief itself, while definitely potentially very dangerous because people just get rooted in nonsense, it is also very important because you need to have a value. Like you need to be pushing towards something. Like I at least believe in the power of love.
Right.
And that's important. But I didn't even think that I'd say that sentence, 10 years ago that was my belief.
Right.
And is my, and I can go on saying that like a belief in the power of love and harmony with other life forms is a very different kind of belief than a bad belief, but we can leave.
I know. I totally agree. My brother, he's an atheist. I don't know if I'm allowed to say. No, I think he's pretty openly atheist. I think. Actually, he is, because I remember when we were living together, he would, but he would tell me that. I say, isn't that sad that you'd think that nothing happens after you die? It's like, well, not when you accept it, not when you think about it. And ever since he said that, it's not been an idea that I've necessarily believed in, but it's an idea that I've definitely entertained since he's said that he was atheist. And I'm just kind of like, once you do really consider that could be a possibility, like it's not as painful as you might think, because then you start to think about all the pros. Initially, it's all cons, like, oh, wouldn't that suck because of the X, Y, Z?
Right. The promise of an afterlife is, in infinite existence compared to your one. So it's a big promise.
Right. I guess
rooted in fucking very little.
I think the only reason I'm not atheist is because, I don't really care what happens after this life, because it's going to happen one way or another. It's the only thing that's certain about life is that you're going to die.
And am I going to be damned if I don't believe in it? It's like, that doesn't make any sense to me either. That if there is God would really forgive me for saying I have no reason to believe that all the things that people were telling me about God and the way I should be interpreting you and the afterlife were true. Instead, I decided to live my life as a good person. Is that okay?
Right.
Yes, I'm sure.
And exactly. To that point, my brothers used to tell me, he was like, because I asked him, I was like, well, what's the point of doing something good? Because, I was much more religious longer than him. And I was like, what's the point of doing something good then? And he was like, you shouldn't do something good it should be for the sake of just being a good person. And
I remember having conversations with a bunch of people who are just like, wait a minute, if you're not religious, if you don't believe in God, then how do you have any kind of morality? And it's like, whoa. What is, I'll make this quick, but it's like, I had this conversation with someone who was like, well, then what, like, why is the Bible even good to read? And he's like, well, the Bible has truths in it, lots of truths. And it's like, how do you determine whether or not something is a truth or is just a book? There's a sense of whether or not it's true that you're relying on. That's the same thing I follow. Like, righteousness is outside it.
Damn, that is a very, very eye-opening point, because I agree. I think that just doing things, because we are just mold on a globe that's just here to thrive, and really you could argue, I don't know what the meaning of life is, but one of the very obvious elements of life, no matter what species you are, is perception. There are good and bad feelings, and you could argue that our entire life is just us chasing a high of good perceptions and memories. Everything we do, from drinking the coffee in the morning to intercourse to
short and long term
eating,
variations,
they're all different drugs that we do. We're just living things that are just trying to have the best memories possible through. We spend money on college so we can get a good job, so we can make money, so we can have the life we want to live. I mean, we're just here, whether or not we live on after we die, our main objective on this planet is to have as good of a life as possible. We're all just here to thrive and help each other grow. So why isn't that meaning enough to just, get along with everyone and just to make the best life possible for all of us, regardless of what's on the other side, and quite frankly, it's like saying, well, why should I decorate my apartment if I'm just going to move into another apartment a month from now? Because like one of my favorite philosophers, Alan Watts, his philosophy on life, his philosophy on life is that, we look at it like a journey. We have to get it. Like I said, you got to get a job so you can get money, so you can retirement, save up, and, have a better future for your. It's like, it's not it's like a dance. You don't dance to get to the end of it. You dance to enjoy the entire process of the dance. And so I think
it's fun to dance.
It's fun to dance. It's why do we sing along to a song? Are we singing to get to the very last chorus? No, you just sing the last word and you beat it. It's the idea that life should be lived in the moment, regardless. And it's like, unless you're hurting yourself or someone else, you just do happiness for the sake of happiness. And so, to anyone watching this on one side of the fence or the other, or if you're straddling the fence like me, and trust me, I've been on the fence for so long that spoke is about 2 inches in my hole. But I got to tell you, just be a good person. Don't rely on getting into heaven to be a good person, because who knows? Maybe the actual heaven isn't, you don't get in by being a good person. You get in by thinking for yourself and having doubt. I don't know. That could be the true test.
The truth is we don't know.
We don't know what happens. And isn't that wonderful? Because whatever happens, odds are we're going to a very similar place. And maybe I'll see you there on the other side. But until that happens, I hope for many, many more years of wondering and debating and philosophizing.
And dancing.
And dancing. Many more years of dancing and singing horribly along to whatever track I want to sing. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Jonathan, thank you so much for
Pleasure.
coming in today. And until next time, I'm Brandon Rogers. Stay alive.